Welcome back to Take Action News, everybody. David Shuster here. Daniel Marins. It is time again for How It Should Be. What do you got?
Well, David, this week there was no greater reminder than in the states of Texas and North Carolina that state elections matter even in off years, and we pay far too little attention to them, particularly as voters and organizers, but also as media officials. And if you're wondering what happened exactly in North Carolina, well, it turns out that North Carolina essentially said, thanks but no thanks to the federal government. They are accelerating their plan to repay a $2.5 billion debt to the federal government, and they said that they would be willing to stop receiving federally funded emergency unemployment compensation, such that people who are unemployed for more than 6 months can receive unemployment benefits that are paid for in part by the federal government. And apparently, the North Carolina state wanted to do this, to turn down the federal funding for these extended unemployment claims, so they could cut the unemployment benefits of some 170,000 workers whose state benefits expire this year, and they'll lose about $700 million in emergency unemployment compensation benefits as a result. Now, weekly payments for those collecting the current maximum benefit of $535, again, that's a week, will fall to $350. It's $1,400 a month for people that can't legally have any other income in that particular case, or at least any other covered income. These are people that are desperate, that are they're long-term unemployed, in a state that has the 5th highest unemployment rate in the country, North Carolina, by the way, the lowest unionization rate. So much for right to work, bringing home those jobs. It's despicable, and it's obviously not the only thing that the North Carolina Republican-controlled governorship and legislature has rammed through. They're tightening up on their voter ID laws, making it harder for people of color and low-income people to vote and register on time. They're also cutting back on all kinds of state services like education. They haven't accepted the Medicaid expansion paid for by the Affordable Care Act, and that's why protest groups are coming out every single Monday for these Moral Monday protests. Now, of course, the other thing that I'm referring to in terms of why state elections matter, and we could pick any number of the gubernatorial races. We could even talk about the massive redistricting that was done along partisan lines in 2010 that essentially made it so that the Republican Party may control the House of Representatives for years to come, despite not having those majorities in the gerrymandered districts. But I'm talking about the Texas-controlled legislature, where they were ramming through SB 5 to restrict a woman's right to choose even further in Texas, including putting costly new regulations that would make it nearly impossible for a woman to get an abortion in most parts of the state, leaving only 5 clinics open in 4 major Texan cities. Now, why is this important to note? Well, in Texas in 2010, when Governor Perry was reelected, there was only 37.5% turnout in a state with one of the largest emerging Democratic majorities. In Pennsylvania, in that same year when Governor Corbett was elected, and they're now having trouble, they're now protesting in a 24-hour vigil to get them to expand their Medicaid under the Affordable Health Care Act. There was only a 42% voter turnout rate. Now, in North Carolina in 2012, there was a 68% turnout rate, but that's because it was a main election year. We need to focus on getting people turned out in these midterm years because we're paying the price in these state legislatures. So that's how it should be. We should focus on the states.